The Mass is our greatest prayer, which is shared every Sunday in the greater Catholic community. Therefore, the SMA Media Center is helping you to share more fully by offering Father Tom Casey's thoughts for this Sunday based on the Mass readings. Here is your host homilist, Father Tom Casey SMA.
Hello everybody once again, and welcome to today's sermon, which is on the 33rd Sunday of the year in Ordinary Time, Year C. As you may notice, we are coming towards the end of the church year. There's only next Sunday, which will be Christ the King feast. So a lot of the readings are about the end of the world, the end also of our own lives here on earth. You would say not the greatest and happiest of subjects, but if we actually listen to the words today, we will be encouraged not to fear death, not to fear the end, because the end is not the end, it's the beginning. In our first reading, we have evil being defeated, and the Sun of Justice, with its healing rays arising. This is from Malachi chapter 3. Again, something to encourage us. Also, we in the Thessalonians, St. Paul to the Thessalonians is warning the Thessalonians to stop being idle and to stop speaking badly about other people, gossiping and so forth, to behave better, to use our time, the precious little time we have on earth, for the best way we can, to love, to forgive, to encourage, to make better the world that we find ourselves in. And in the Gospel, we are experiencing Jesus speaking about the end of the world. And it's frightening. It's frightening in the sense that he says the signs will come. There'll be wars, earthquakes, volcanoes, you could say tsunamis. The whole works will start happening. So it could lend to us being frightened and maybe taking the wrong message, like some people do. They say, oh, these things are happening, sure, it must be the end of the world. This is not the way to look at Jesus' words. Jesus is asking us to be ready at any time, because we don't know the time, the day, nor the hour. But we must always be ready. Just look at the signs that we do have that help us to get prepared. You know, for us who are moving on in age, we see the signs in our bodies. We move more slowly. We can't run as fast as we used to. We see the signs in our bodies. We are sick more often, maybe. So these are the outward signs that are there to show that time is passing and that maybe our time here on earth is coming to an end soon. But also, we see sadly so many young people, as well as old people, being snuffed out of life, out of this world, in road accidents, accidents of all kinds, on building sites, in offices, in the most peculiar of places, freak accidents. These things are looming and can happen at any time. And how can we be prepared for that? The only way is to always be ready for those things. Even of recent times, we have mad people moving into malls, places of work and places of shopping, and shooting everybody they can see. This is the time we are living in. Also terrorists attack. So, to be ready. To be ready means we accept our death. If we can accept that today maybe I die, I am ready to die today, but I will continue doing as St. Francis used to say, I'll continue gardening, because that's what I'm doing, because I'm ready. I've made my peace with my God. I've made my peace with other people. I have no enemies. I owe nothing to anybody. So I'm ready to go. And I am trying to be good. So this is liberation, to embrace the fact that I will die. This is what is being asked of us. Pope Francis, in a general audience in St. Peter's Square in October this year, was reflecting on death. And he said the following: death, which is a reality that our modern civilization tends to eradicate so completely that when death comes to us or those around us, we are unprepared. But he says, past civilizations had the courage to look death in the face. Death shows us that our acts of pride and anger and hatred are sheer vanity. The Pope says, we realize with regret that we have not loved enough and did not look for what was essential. In other words, the saddest thing of all to say, we have wasted our time in anger, in revenge, in not ready to forgive and not ready to make peace with everyone, even our enemies, to pray for them especially. So this is also being prepared. Now, we, as I did at one time, question life. Why do we have to leave this beautiful world? Why do we have to leave it all behind and go? Yes, we are promised a greater place in the future, beyond the great threshold, which is death. But we can ask ourselves many times, why do we have to die at all? What's the meaning of it all? Why suffer? Why, when we see our friends suffering and eventually dying, what does that mean? What good is that for anyone? For me, it's not a question anymore, because I look at God himself, because he was concerned about this fact too. When he sent his only son, in other words, he sent himself. He came among us and took on this human condition, suffering, inevitability of death, the uncertainty of what can happen around the next corner. He came and experienced all that. And he showed us how to deal with it. And how did Jesus himself deal with it? He accepted his death. He accepted the sufferings that he experienced so much of. Abuse, torture, lies being spread about him, and eventually hatred, temptations from the devil. He experienced the whole gamut of the human experience. And he accepted his death on the cross. But that wasn't the end. He rose from the dead. How do we know he rose from the dead? Like the wind, we cannot see the wind, but we know it's there because the trees shake when it blows. The disciples themselves changed completely after the resurrection. They were afraid before. Now they went out to preach the gospel without fear of death, without fear of being annihilated in any way, even though they were. And most of them did face annihilation and great suffering. A lot of them suffered martyrdom. Andrew, Bartholomew, James, Simon the Zealot, Peter, Thomas, all these suffered martyrdom. Read about it, Google it on the internet, and you will hear about their lives and how they had to suffer, and willingly suffered. And even to this day, people are willing to suffer and die for the good news, the gospel, the liberation message. So let us ask ourselves today, are we ready to die? Are we ready to sacrifice ourselves and give over to the Lord and allow Him to carry us on our journey? And even if that is to death today, we are not to be afraid, because God is with us and the resurrection is a reality. May God bless you today with a meaningful death in the future that makes you not to be scared, but that helps you to be courageous and accepting of this inevitable reality. But it has all been destroyed because of the resurrection from the dead. May God bless you, and please remember our dead this month.